Good morning, guys. I want to first of all say thank you for having me, and thank you to the organizers of Data Fest Africa 2023. My name is Victory Ogbegbor. So brief story about me. I've got 20 minutes, so we'll be quick. I started data in 2020 in the middle of COVID lockdown, and I did 12 courses in 4 months. Ended up at Carbon, worked at Carbon for a year, and then moved to the UK for a master's in data science. Worked with Blue Auto Finance, the UK's largest car lender, and as I was rounding that off, I was building a machine learning model for them. I got a call from Chelsea, and that was it. I moved to Chelsea to lead their tech team to migrate data from multiple databases. So what's going on is, essentially, we know all the gist about Russia's war, right? And so Russia was at war, and Abramovich has to leave the team, right? He had to forfeit Chelsea, and they sold it to American owners. So what usually operates in the UK is, if I own a club, I need to do the British thing of giving as much possible responsibility to British companies to handle as much as they can. So at Chelsea, that meant that different parts of the data at Chelsea was hosted on different companies' databases and doing different bits of the job. And so what Chelsea wanted to do was, we are now American, right? So all the other British guys can go to sleep. Give me all my data, let me host it on GCP. And that was my job. After doing that, we decided, you know what, let's just create what we call visualization at Chelsea. So it was a lot of analytics engineering, a lot of data engineering, a lot of stretch and pull in such a short time. You have to remember that all of this is between 2020 and 2022. I am talking to you here with less than 3 years experience. I'm saying it so that you understand what is possible. In December of last year, I got endorsed by the UK government as a tech talent. I have met people that have 5, 6 years experience that don't want to apply for that thing. Don't you shoot yourself in the foot. You can do it. Anything is possible. Sorry, maybe because I'm talking on somebody at this stage. It's giving motivational speech. But okay, let's get into the business of today. Now, if you think about data and soccer, what if I told you that what determines or what has determined the leaders of Premier League in the last 4 years was data? And what has determined the guys that are going to relegation is also data. I hope we have my slides ready. So let's go. Okay. So, sorry, 2 things. I hope the slides are ready. Can I also get a pointer, please? Right. So, data and soccer. Think back to Liverpool, right? All of us were in lockdown 2019-2020 season. I see a lot of guys here. If you guys don't relate, I'm vex. But 2019-2020 season, you just see all of a sudden, Musala is scoring goals. And Mane is on the other side and scoring goals. And you're like, oh, club must be good. Such a brilliant coach. Hilarious. Anyways, 4 years before that, Liverpool was constantly fourth, right? And then we're in 2020 and they're scoring goals. And think back, after that season, they've gone back to the normal 4 to 6. Have you? Just saying. Now, there is a company in the UK, DeepMind. DeepMind Analytics developed the only machine learning model that has been able to beat the best chess player in the world. They did that in 2019. Guess what happened next? Liverpool employed DeepMind. And so Liverpool employed DeepMind and said, we need to win Premier League. And DeepMind's first start was, how do we get in the kind of players that will play the kind of football that club loves? The first player that DeepMind suggested was Mo Salah. And then the next guy they suggested was Sadio Mane. So you are all the way in Lagos watching football, and I'm just thinking, this guy must be a genius. Who is Pep Guardiola beside him? But beside him and behind him is a full data team. Guess what happened after that season? Please reduce your volume as I'm telling you something. They let go of DeepMind after they employed a guy that has a PhD in data science from Cambridge to lead their data team. He's still working on the models. Let's just leave it like that. let's just leave it like that. And so you can see quickly how data alone can come into a club's life and everything changes. In the United Kingdom, when you grow up, you basically become a fan of the team that has a football stadium where you grew up in. How do I explain this? Okay, so in Manchester, there's Manchester City and Manchester United. If you, for example, grow up in Humes, you automatically become a Manchester United fan. If you grow up on the other side of Manchester, you become a City fan. Simple, right? So let's think about Brentford FC. In 2012, Brentford FC declares for bankruptcy and says, guys, we don't have any money anymore. But Brentford decided we would as well just be the first club in the UK to be owned by people that live in Brentford. And so they put out news and said, the slides are still on. Okay. So they put out news and said, they said to the guys, let's sell out Brentford to the people of Brentford, right? And Matthew Benham, for some stroke of luck, or whatever reason, I'll tell you the reason, he had £700,000 lying around. And Matthew came to the team and said, I want to put my 700k in Brentford. Now, what you may not know about Matthew is, years before that, he was in gambling. And gambling business in the UK is legal, first of all. Second of all, it's a lot of money, right? So he made his money from there. And Brentford, however, was not the first football club he would buy. He had originally bought, sorry, that's the slide before this, guys. He had originally bought an Asian team, and all he wanted to do with those guys was play around with data. Because think about, don't raise up your hand in case your girlfriend sees you, but guys, if you have betted on live score before, you know that there are a lot of data points that come in just as you're about to place that bet. They are pushing you towards odds of 2, odds of 0.5. I don't know about those things, I'm just but they are inching you little by little with data, right? So you had worked with a lot of data while working in betting. And you said this thing must be able to work in football. So he bought the Asian team just to mess around with them with data. Purely for that purpose. Trust me, British people are funny. But that was the purpose. And so he did that for a year. Came around to Brentford and bought for 700k, right? So now he has the largest stake at Brentford, is the owner. And then he said, the next thing we need to do is cancel the second division team. So, all of, you know how, like, for example, with Man City, if they are winning in EPL and it remains like 2 matches for the league to end, they just bring junior guys, let them play Liverpool and sweat the beats, right? To cancel those guys. And he said for the first thing, he wanted to recruit a couple of people. And his idea was he would go to teams that are underpaying or not playing their players. And those guys sitting on the bench, he would send scouts to sit and watch them in training and gather data. What kind of data were they gathering if they are not scoring any goals? Expected goal rates. So he was thinking to himself, it's not really about scoring as many goals as possible. It is about how many goals will they score if they have the right environment. If you remember the days of Messi in front, Xavi in the middle, Iniesta on the other side, you know what I'm talking about. So if you put the right player in the right field, he would be able to deliver more goals, right? And that was how they bought a couple of guys. That was in 2012, right? At this point, Brentford was a second division team, relegated to the Premier League. By 2014, 2 years, they moved to the Premier League. That move alone earned Brentford £300 million. And for every single year that Brentford has stayed in the Premier League, they have earned an extra £400 million. That is aside the fact that they bought players for as little as 2.6 million and sold them for as much as 30 million. And so if you look at it, you see Matt as a man that with 700k has made billions of pounds for a club that was going to die. With what? Data. Right? Kevin De Bruyne, last example. KDB was to sign for Manchester City again in 2021. He signed for 5 years. The headline was £100 million, third highest paid midfielder in the EPL behind Odegaard and a couple of other guys. But what really happened was Manchester City was going to sign him for 70 million. And he worked with Sky Sports, I think, no, Transfer Lab. Worked with Transfer Lab. And Transfer Lab came to training for a couple of months, saw him on the pitch for a couple of months, and said, with this data, we believe you can perform 30% more on intrinsic value. And so intrinsic value is the value that the player gives to the team. The market value is obviously the market value of the player, right? So they were able to push Manchester City and say, this guy is worth more than you are giving, and he earned £30 million more. Memphis Depay, if you remember that name, you must be a Man U fan. That year he was good, came to Man U, and for whatever reason, he wasn't really playing. And so he needed to leave, right, 2016. And Memphis said to Sky Sports, what are the top 5 teams I can play with? The first one they listed was Lyon. And now Memphis moved to Lyon in 2016, scored 60 goals plus. That's a player that Manchester United was, let's say, left. But you see how data can change things, right? Now, all of these stories are good, but we have faced a lot of challenges. We are faced with a lot of challenges, and I will quickly run through. The first challenge is the issue of funds. If you think about all the things I've mentioned, it's either by luck they have somebody that has money or they're a big team. As a matter of fact, in La Liga, it is only the top teams that right now can afford to be able to install IoT devices, to be able to employ data teams, employ data companies, to be able to run their data for them. There is also the issue of standardization. Anyways, there's also the issue of, can you guys see the slides? Apologies, man. Alright, I'm so sorry. I hope this will be provided on the website or something, but I'm so sorry about that. I don't know what happened with that. But quickly, standardization of data, right? When we speak about standardization in machine learning, for example, you run a standardization model, you put your numbers on the normalization model, you put your numbers between 0 and 1. Am I correct? You should not make my master's a joke. So, put your numbers between zeros and ones, yeah? But in football, we don't have that kind of metric. Now, what am I talking about? When you go to the hospital and you measure your blood pressure, systolic, diastolic should be 90 over 120, right? If you come out with 110 over 140, sorry, I have another medical degree. Let's leave that one. But if you come out with 110 over 140, the doctor will say something is wrong. In football, there is nothing like a striker must run at 35 meters per hour, even not a new striker. It's not standardized like that. And that's an issue, right? Now, there's the issue of privacy, because if I run data from Manchester United and Chelsea, one of them just has to offer me enough money. And the other person gets the other person's data, and just say that. Now, there's also the issue of democratization. The issue with democratization is that who owns what, right? So, I mentioned La Liga, for example. How many people here watch La Liga? Okay. So in La Liga, when you watch it, you see that when they pause the game, there are a number of metrics that just go up on the field, right? All of those metrics are run by La Liga. But let me tell you the real story. All of those guys that run the numbers for La Liga are employed by Barcelona. So there is this little contention. Is it really La Liga numbers or Barcelona numbers? Right? And that's La Liga. In EPL, we don't have any, they don't really care if your team wants to run data fine, if you don't want to. So it's not democratized, there's no head to tail system on it. Right? So that's the challenge. Now, how many people here have ever bought a football jersey? Not on that bridge, like apologies. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Like I'm talking your girlfriend. You know when girlfriends want to buy you something, they would. So like the one that your girlfriend bought for you, that is original. Not the one you simply on Thursday. But if you ever got a jersey, think to the fact that you are making money for a business. So when you come to Stanford Bridge, for example, if you say Stanford Bridge, you are thinking of the stadium, right? And the best you is think of the brilliant walls. If the camera has shown you before on the case, you see the U-boats watch in front, and all of those great graphics, right? But if you stroll further into Stanford Bridge, and this was probably my first shock working at Chelsea, behind that stadium are two hotels, two four-star hotels. In each of those hotels are Michelin-star restaurants. In each of those hotels are gyms with people actively subscribed to it. Because you have to remember that Chelsea is in an area of London that is very expensive, southwest London. And also, Chelsea shares the same road with Fulham FC. So if you read the full address of Stamford Bridge, you see Stamford Bridge come out Fulham Road. And that competition means both Fulham and Chelsea are sharing customers literally on the street. What I'm saying to you is that Chelsea is not just a football club, it is a business. There is no just ordinary football club. They are all businesses at the heart of it. And I'm saying this because I'm in a community that has invested a lot in, for example, fintech data, agri data, health data. If you can crunch fintech numbers, you can crunch football numbers. I'll tell you quickly that when I went into Chelsea for my interview, they gave me 6 SQL questions. I had 15 minutes, I was not told. I spent time on 3. When they told me my time is up, I told them, let's not deceive ourselves. I can't finish it. But what I can do is talk to you about the data. Bear in mind, I had a little experience. I'd not worked football data before. And so it was literally a conversation about how I can handle football data like business data that made me enter. So you always have to think about it, like, because I see a lot of people saying, if I want to work in healthcare, for example, I have to have health experience. It's valid. I'm not saying it's not valid. But I'm also saying expand your possibility. Anything can happen. Okay? And I think the last thing I would say is do your research, take courses. I know Barcelona has a very solid analytics, sport analytics course, right? So get the ground running if you want to do your research. There are companies doing very mad stuff. There are companies that the one we know very well is Training Invest, right? When, by the way, I hope you know that when you watch trainings, that black vest they are wearing has GPS and IoT in it, and it measures everything about the players. Do you know that FIFA World Cup 2022, FIFA came out and said it's not just a World Cup of soccer, it's a World Cup of data and soccer. Every team that climbed that pitch, I'm not sure about Nigeria, but every team that climbed the pitch had sensors fitted in their jersey. Oh, thank you. Just please read it, thank you. So they had sensors fitted in their jerseys, and with that, they were able to do measurements of data on the field. If you remember, Morocco and Croatia were in the same team with Belgium and Canada. Belgium has Lukaku in front, Courtois at the back. That experience should mean Belgium should win the group. But Morocco and Croatia showed up with an actual data scientist, and they won the group. Right? Now, that's just and verse, right? There are now teams that measure data from the source of players. That sounds interesting. I found out that there is a company that has looked at the body as a data platform, and through sweat, listen carefully, sweat. The thing is, I was trying to explain to somebody at the back, and even me, I was like, oh, this thing doesn't add up. Through sweat, as a player is actively playing on the pitch, they have been able to measure the physiology of a player. It is great that the Apple Watch can measure your oxygen levels because it uses rays between the wrist and the skin, right? It makes sense. But these ones are not touching you. They just have cameras looking at the contrast of where there's sweat on your body. That level of detail. And because of that, they can measure the physiology of a player as they are playing. So we've gone from using video contrast to using sweat. The industry is moving fast. So if you want to come in, this is the time. Thank you very much. Okay, please don't ask me how you joined Chelsea. I don't know. Funny enough, I moved from Chelsea. I work with commerce tools now. Europe's third largest e-commerce. So if you look through my experience, I've worked different industries literally every single year. I don't even know where I'm going. I'm going. So I want to just take 2 questions quickly. If anybody has questions. Okay, so that's one. One more. That's 2. Okay. Can you guys come up on stage? Sorry. Oh, you're very important. Come on. Let's go on stage. When you start speaking publicly now, you know, Victory puts me on stage. This is the staircase with this. You want to do 3? Okay, just 3. Okay, cool. Clap for them, guys. Yeah, it's a funny question. Nice. Yeah.
Be on both of them.
So you said something about using deep mind analytics for Liverpool.
Yeah.
So what of Chelsea?
Interestingly, when I was preparing for this presentation, I was just saying, when I was preparing for this presentation, I discovered that there are things I can see because of PII. I can only tell you the ones that are available online. That answers the question. Next question.
Hi, good morning, Victor. Okay.
Sorry, your name is Victory.
My name is Damola.
Okay.
Damola Victor. So, you mentioned doing a master's in data science, and it seems like that's more of your stack, right? Data science kind of ish. So you mentioned, okay, the call from Chelsea to work on their models and build on that. So I'm just trying to imagine, because I'm a data engineer.
Yeah.
So let's imagine, Chelsea's data was wrapped up in different areas, and you had to migrate. How did you deal with building those pipelines? Despite the fact that you majorly focused on data science and making sure that everything was properly optimized. I want to just understand how that the thought process worked.
So malleability is the ability of a metal to bend when put under pressure. As a data person, you have to have it. And so I walked into Chelsea literally knowing 3 things: SQL, Tableau, in fact, Power BI, and Python. I left Chelsea working SQL, Power BI, Tableau, Looker, Python, Airflow, SQL CI. What else is there? I've forgotten. But the point is, as the opportunity presents itself, you have to be able to learn on the job. You have to be able to monitor. I didn't know anything about data engineering. I won't lie to you, I did not. But I read up on it. I spent nights on it. And that's just the way to do it. I won't lie to you. Okay, so last question, please.
Good morning. Follow, that's my name. I'm wondering, what are the challenges with, would I say, gathering data in Africa, in Nigeria? How come we cannot analyze players, performance?
You can. Do you know that there was a player from Kenya that literally got signed into the UK because he worked with the data team in Africa, and he got signed for what $20,000. It was cheap for them. Last year, he sold for 20 million euros. So you can. It's just an issue of like the things I mentioned. There's funding. There's the organization. It's not standardized. I think the main issue in Nigeria, for example, is funding because, to be honest, how many football teams can afford data companies? Because that's what's happening in the UK. Football teams can afford data companies. Think about how much money Big Man must have made from Liverpool to work with them for a year. That Liverpool said, "I'm sorry, please, you can be going." So I think that answers the question, right?
Thank you so much. Let's answer that for me. On behalf of the Data First team, we'd like to give you this platform. Thank you very much.